If you want to add multiple rows from Google Sheets into make.com to transform it without creating multiple reports, I mean combining it into a single bundle, then this is the video for you. We are going to walk through this. This is a follow-up from the previous video where we connected the different modules, the Google Sheets and the make.com module. Here we're going to expand that by combining multiple rows, but also multiple columns to use that data together to create a single report. Now, if you want to have any AI automation done at your business, just look in the description below for the link. You can book a call with me. What we have here is we have 3 modules, 2 Google Sheets modules and 1 ChatGPT model. It's a very simple automation. This is just a section of a larger automation that I built for a client where we generate data reports. Now, these 2 Google Sheets refer to the same sheet. Here we go at the top. And what we have done in the previous video is we filtered on a single row of data. Now, as you can see, there are multiple columns here that we are working with. We only extract some of the data from those columns and we transform that into a report. So what that looks like, if I just click on run once, what we're doing is using this first module, we are extracting the data, and then in ChatGPT, we gave a specific prompt to write a report of that data, so as if it is explained to someone who is looking at a chart. And then that is placed back into Google Sheets. So what we will see here is this data is extracted, and then under report, we'll have these two columns populated now. There we go. So there it was created now, and that is just the summary of the previous video that we did. But now what happens if I want to have multiple rows? At the moment we have 1 row being used, right? Now if I have multiple rows, what will happen? Let's say we want to add another, we've got the urban measure here, but let's say we want to add the rural measure as well. So the rural measure is population per, let's have a look, there, population rural. Now we've got 2 rows, so we've got 2 filters that we're working with, right? I'm going to copy this. If I go back here and I want to select that field as well, currently we're filtered under the country Lesotho and the measure for the urban, that's just the shortened key used for the urban measure. But what we want to do now is we want to add the rural measure as well. So we are going to click OR, because OR basically creates a new filter block. And what we want to do is we want to add that in here. If we click measure and add population rural, what it will do, it will select the rural rows, but there are multiple rows. So what we want to do is we want to add the geography as well. Otherwise, it's going to select it from all the countries, and we don't want that. Select that and click Save. But before I continue here, what I will show you what's going to happen now, I'm just going to unlink this and run this once. It's going to give me an output of 2 bundles. Bundle 1 with the urban population and all the rows, or all the columns, and then the rural population with all the columns. Now what will happen if we have multiple bundles? It means it'll execute for each one of those bundles. So the problem that we have is if this is selected and I run this now, so what you will see if you open the module here, you'll see 2 operations. One using the first bundle and the second using the second bundle, right? That's the data that's being used. Now that's not what we want. So what we will do is we will use a text aggregator. So if you right click, add a module, add text aggregator under tools. It combines multiple strings into a single text. I'm just going to show you what this looks like. There we go. And what you do is you select the let me show you. You select the source module that you're working with, which is where the data comes from, and then you select a row separator. Will each row start on a new line or on a new tab, or is there another method? So usually people will use commas or semicolons to divide the different values, so each row. And what are the texts that we want to incorporate in this row? So what we've been working with are the years and the measure and the country of the specific of the row. So we've got the geography, which refers to the specific country, right? We've got Lesotho there, and then we gave it the instruction to check the urban population. The metric is it's a percentage of the population, and then what are those values for 1960, 1925, and 2045. And what I did here under text is I essentially combined all of that information. So just to show you, this text field, that is the full text that you want to combine. So let's just make it simple and use the measure just so you can see the difference. So if we were just to select the measure, right? And let me unlink this, and I want to show you the output now. So we're still extracting the two rows, right? But now you can see there's only one execution here. So what it did under output, it combined the two modules, the text of the two modules, as a single text with a line break. Remember, we selected that there should be a line break here, a new row. Okay. If I were to select other and let's say create a separator of a comma, and I run this again, we'll have both those text fields as separated by a comma. Bundle 1, there's the separation. So that is how you would combine two rows into a single text. And that is exactly what we are doing for this project. Is what we are doing, I'm going to combine, I'm not only going to have measure in, I want to have the geography, the measure, and each year's value. So what I did is I separated them by pipes. You can use semicolons, you can use whatever you want. This is just a way of combining the text so that you can understand it or ChatGPT can understand it. And we only worked with 3 dates, 1960, 2025, and 2045, with those specific values in there. So that is why the text looks like this. So now the output will have only those values of the two bundles. I'm going to change the separator again to be new rows. And if I were to run this once now, and we look at our output, here we've got the country, the measure, there's the year value of each one of those rows. And that is how you combine the values. And so what I did is then I'm going to add that to ChatGPT instead of typing it out every time, and instead of getting 2 reports. So I'm going to give you the raw data of the population of, let me just change this to a hard-coded Lesotho, and then the text context, I can actually take all of this out now, because what we want to compare is compare the urban population and the rural population using this data. And then I just add that text from that aggregator, and it'll have both the rows in there, and it'll output that value under Google Sheets. So if I select a spreadsheet ID again, it won't select that spreadsheet ID again now because the spreadsheet is linked specifically to this module. So no problem. What we will do, we'll just hard code it again for this demo purposes. Later I would add something like a variable to help identify the specific sheet. But here you can see at the top, I'm just selecting that sheet ID. Under Google Sheets, I select that one, paste that in, and then under report, we're going to save that value. So let's test this and run this once all the way through. So what it does, it filters, it gets both those rows. You'll actually see it under the output here once it's finished. Bundle 1 we've got there, and then bundle 2 we've got as well. So 2 outputs. Under the text aggregator, they are combined as a single text. So they're combined into one bundle, and that bundle is then put into ChatGPT as the input message. You can see the final message that I have here: compare the rural and urban population using this data. There we go. And then it writes the report and it publishes the report into this Google Sheet. So if I go back to Google Sheets and I look at my report and look at the last row that I use, here we've got the output. Okay, so it uses both those rows. Now, finally, so that is how you can combine the rows. But how then can you combine the columns? Because I only used the 3 dates, right? I used 1960, 2025, and 2045. But what if I want to add more dates? I mean, the text field will become quite cumbersome and clumsy, right? This text field where we combine it. I can add the other countries here as well. But a better way to do it would be to combine it in a separate module already and then just add that in here. And that would we would combine it into a JSON format for that. So when you want to combine it, use the create JSON or create text module to combine the different columns together. The reason for that is it creates a more structured output for your files. Now this one I already created, so I'm just going to add that in here and I'm going to show you what it looks like. So I add that in here for the tutorial. I created this specific data structure. Now, what this data structure really is, it's the same thing as what you're building here. This is essentially a data structure that you built here, right? Now, we want to do the same thing, just one step earlier. So how you would do that is you would click add. I'm just going to say Lesotho data structure. And then you specify what those fields are that you are looking for, right? Now remember, we were looking specifically for the country as a field. If we select, let me just show you here. We're essentially looking for these fields. There's country, the measure, and then those 3 years. Let me just select that again. Lesotho data structure, add item, I'm going to say country. And you don't have to add a description. You can if you want, but you don't need to. What is the value that we expect in there? I expect text. You can have a default value if you want, or leave it blank. And then you can add as many items as you want. So we want to add multiple items because we want multiple columns to be added, right? So we've got country first. Second, we've got the measure. Third, we've got 1960. Was it 1960? Yes. And then 2025, and then 2045. Right. And if I click save, then it creates that data structure for you. And you can fill in what values you expect in there. Now for country, we're looking for geography. For measure, we're looking for measure. That's essentially these headings, right? Measure and geography. What are we testing? 1960, 2025, and 2045. Now what this does, let me just unlink this quickly for a moment. It creates a JSON, which is a structured data output. So if I look at the output here we can see we've already got that data together. Okay, we've got one JSON string for the urban population, and we've got a second JSON string under the second operation for the rural population. And now what we just have to do is combine it again into a single bundle. So I'm going to take all of this text out and just add the JSON string in there. If I click save, let me just unlink here and I'll show you what happens. So the one is to combine the columns, the second is to combine the rows. There's our output. The bundle input, we've got 2 bundle input, one for urban, one for rural. and one bundle output, which is a combination of both those bundles. And what I'll just do then is link that back into ChatGPT as the text value, and then it will write the report. And doing that will really help if you have multiple rows of data that you need to import, making it as simple as possible with only 5 modules here. So we added 2 modules in this video to create a pretty complex import and transformation automation. And this is very useful if you have large volumes of data that you need to report on, whether that be in columns or in rows. Now, let's just have a look at the output that it's going to generate, if it works as expected. There we go, it's done. If I go back to report, there we've got our output, because it used exactly the information that we provided in the JSON and in the text aggregator. Now, if you want automations done like this at your business, just look in the description below for a link and book a call with me.